Guten Tag, WAP. This is Mr. Liniger. Let's make history today as we go over Unit 0, Day 6. And today we're going to talk about periphery civilizations in Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, and talk about what was going on in those areas before 1200 CE. But before we get to that, let's do our daily punishment. Geology rocks, but geography is where it's at. It's a pun with history involved. So clever. All right. Our key terms for today are Olmecs, Moche, or the Mochicha, Teotihuacan, the Mayans, the Bantu migration, Aryanism, Monophytes, Nubia, Axum, stateless societies, matrilineal, shamanism, animism, Ghana, and the Polynesian migration. Ooh. We're going to go over civilizations in Africa, Latin America, and Oceania / Southeast Asia before 1200 CE. Let's start off with talking about a civilization that developed in the Mexican heartland in modern-day Mexico called the Olmecs. First civilization to develop there around 1200 BCE. They're on the coast of Mexico Gulf. One of the big things they're known for is building colossal heads. Possibly they were meant to represent their rulers to show their power in pyramid construction. You could see some of their giant heads right there. Those are big heads! The influence of the Olmec traditions, the Olmecs will disappear, but they're going to influence a lot of latter-day Mexican civilizations. Maize, or we call it corn in America, is going to be very important to them as a crop. They'll have ceremonial centers. They're going to be really big with a calendar, and you'll see that with later civilizations like the Mayans and the Aztecs. They did do human sacrifice. That will be a big deal with the Mayans and the Aztecs. They did not leave written records, so our knowledge of them is a little sparse. So what's going to happen in Latin America is there'll usually be a civilization in Mexico and a civilization in South America in the area around Peru. And the first civilization, the Andean civilization as we call it, in the Peru area was called the Moche, or the Mochicha. They're going to be known for creating techniques of producing cotton textiles and fishing nets. They'll discover gold, silver, and copper metallurgy. Cities will begin to appear shortly after the Chavinkol, which is a really small civilization that happened before them. The Mochicha were from 300 to 700 CE. They did not make use of any writing. What's going to happen in the Mochicha and the Olmecs, and you'll see this with latter-day civilizations, is they will be advanced to their own way, but in these areas and in latter-day areas like the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, they will not have advanced metallurgy. They'll never really advance past Neolithic technologies. They're able to use some metals, like gold and stuff, but that's mostly ceremonial. They use obsidian, but that's more of a rock than anything. They're not going to be really developing metallurgy during this time, which is going to make it a little bit problematic for them when the Europeans come. Let's talk about the city-state of Teotihuacan. This was built in the highlands of Mexico. They're going to build colossal pyramids of the sun and moon to dominate the skyline. It was a city-state. It is going to collapse in before 1200 CE. It's going to be located right near Mexico City. They will inherit the Olmec cultural traditions. It gets a little confusing because Teotihuacan was a city-state, but the later civilizations like the Aztecs will build another city called Tenochtitlan, which is where Mexican City is. So these two cities are different. Tenochtitlan equals Mexico City. Teotihuacan was a city-state that appeared before that. This right here shows some of the urban planning of Teotihuacan. The Mayans were another civilization that's going to appear in the Mexican area and Central America. They were part of southern Mexico and Central America. They were a collection of city-states, but they were ruled by the same king. They were pyramid builders. They built a huge pyramid in Chichen Itza. They created a complex calendar system. They were known for human sacrifice, really pretty hardcore with human sacrifice. The Mayans were also known for waddling their babies and just like putting cloth around them. That's what you do when you have a baby. But they would just like leave them in that all the time. They didn't show a lot of emotions to their children. Some sociologists think that's why they were kind of like emotionally deficient, because they were big with human sacrifice and other bloody games like the Latin American ball where you got your head cut off if you didn't get it through the hoop. In the cosmos, the Mayans believed that gods created humans out of maize. Wars were unique for the Mayans, as they didn't really go to wars to expand their land, but they went to wars to get slaves so they could sacrifice them to their gods. That's so sweet. There's, human sacrifice. Yay! Let's talk a little bit about Africa. The earliest trade in Africa was around the time of ancient Egypt. They used the Nile River. They will start to develop desert routes before 1200 CE. One of the animals that's going to allow this to happen is the camel. The camel has those humps on their back that has water stored in them. It allows the camel to be able to travel in dry areas like deserts. The Berbers will acquire camels from the Romans. They'll be able to be used for deep desert trade. It'll make travel across deserts possible. And they're going to use the Trans-Saharan trade route, which is the trade route in Northwest Africa. I really do not like camels. Like, camels kind of freak me out a little bit. They're just kind of really weird animals. They have really weird tongues. They're not very nice. If you ever ride on one, they bite. I'm not a fan of camels. So there's my PTA message for today. Let's talk about one of the earliest migrations in human history, the Bantu migration. The Bantu were an ethnic population in modern-day Nigeria, Cameroon. From 2000 BCE to 700 BCE, population pressure, the population will increase. It's going to cause the Bantu to migrate all over Africa. The two things that are the population pressures were iron technologies. New iron technologies will allow for better farming technology. It'll allow for more food crops, so more food, which will equal more people. The other thing that's going to happen is the Bantu will develop bananas. Bananas have a lot of potassium. They're very good for you. So with the development of bananas, that's also going to cause the population increase. So you're going to see the Bantu people moving all over Africa. A lot of the African tribes are developed and come from the Bantu. A lot of the different 500 African languages originate from the Bantu. Also, when the Bantu move, they're going to bring food, crops, and animals with them. They'll bring pigs, taro, and banana cultivation. During this time. This right here just kind of shows a map of the Bantu migration during this time, and it is one of the big migrations in human history. This shows some of the developed languages from the Bantu. When we get to Africa, we can make some generalizations. Most of Africa was tribal based. They had the tribe. This is called a stateless society, where they don't have an organized government structure, like they don't have a monarchy, they don't have a bureaucracy. They have a tribe. Societies will be governed through family and kinship groups. Usually village councils will consist of males, family heads. They will have shamanistic religion, so animism. Men will undertake heavy labor and herding. Women will be responsible for child rearing, domestic chores, farming. Men will monopolize public authority, but unlike some of these other civilizations we've talked about, women will have more rights. Women could be leaders. A lot of these societies were matrilineal, which means they trace their descendants from the mother's side. And aristocratic women will influence public affairs. Women merchants were very common at markets. And sometimes even in some of these tribes, women will create all-female military units, which is awesome. This shows all the tribes in Africa. If you ever wonder why it's been really hard for Africa to unite and why there's a lot of violence in there, it's just there's a lot of different tribes. And a lot of these tribes have historical grudges against other ones. When the Europeans take over Africa, they'll purposely put enemy tribes together to kind of like play them off each other. And it's been a detriment for creating unity in Africa, Pan-Africanism. Christianity will come to Africa after the death of Jesus. Like I mentioned before, most of Africa was animistic. Early Christianity will come to Africa in the 1st century. Supposedly St. Mark from the Bible will convert Egypt. The Romans will introduce Christianity to North Africa. What's going to happen is we're going to have two of our first splits in Christianity, in Roman Catholicism, in North Africa. These two faiths, they're called heresies. They're false doctrines. A heresy is like a false teaching. Or Arianism. Arianism believed Jesus was fully human, and Monophytes. And Monophytes believed Jesus was fully God. Both of these teachings will be considered a heresy later on because they will say Jesus is fully God and fully human. We will have some actual kingdoms develop in Africa, Nubia and Axum. They'll both be Christian kingdoms that will develop around the 4th century CE. The Nubians will also have a lot of interactions from the Egyptians, so they'll have a lot of ideas, technology, art that they'll get from the Egyptians. They'll both adopt Monophite Christianity. They'll share basic Christian theology, rituals, and they'll develop their own features. They will be isolated and attacked by Islam. When we get to next unit, all of Africa will mostly be Islam, except for a little bit of northeastern Africa, which is modern-day Ethiopia. They will remain Christian. Then when you get into like the center of Africa, they'll still be very tribal, very animistic. Our first sub-Saharan civilization will be the Kingdom of Ghana. They will spread before 1200 CE, around like 800. It's going to become the first most important commercial site in West Africa. It's located in the Trans-Saharan trade route. They'll control the great gold mines and the Trans-Saharan trade route. They'll provide gold, ivory, and slaves along the Trans-Saharan trade route. In return, they wanted horses, cloths, and manufactured goods. Islam will spread to Ghana, and Ghana will convert to Islam. It will be the first major African civilization to convert to Islam. Even though the people in Ghana, the rulers and the merchants converted to Islam, once you got out of the big cities in Ghana and got to the countryside, a lot of the people there kept their polytheistic beliefs. They kept their animism. There will be some blending of animism and Islam, but really, at first, the people that converted to Islam, like in most religions, will be the elites, the merchants, the nobles, who will convert because of trade. Islam will spread through Africa through trade. The last thing we're going to talk about is the Polynesian migration. The Polynesian migration was something that happened in Oceania. It's going to have two time periods that happens, from 300 to 600 CE and from 1000 to 1300 CE. In this area, they're going to explore 16 million square miles of ocean. They'll settle in every habitable island in the Pacific. A lot of the Polynesian migration, they'll travel by canoe. They will bring with them native food like chicken, pigs, dogs, and sweet potato. Dogs will be eaten in some areas of the world throughout world history. And they'll bring these different foods with them. In the Polynesian migration in Oceania, a lot of these areas will still remain very tribal, hunter-gatherer. There will be some domestication, but they're still like very Neolithic technology in this time period. And this right here just shows a little map of the Polynesian migration. All right, guys, that's all I have for Unit 0, Day 6, and that's all I have for this unit. This unit was giving you just a little context, background of what was going on in world history before 1200. We will start with Unit 1, talking about what's going on in 1200. Until next time, deuces. Deuces.